Have you ever wanted to kill a dog with a plunger? How about an old woman with the teddy bear that used to belong to her grandson, who you also just killed? If you're the one person in the world who wants to do that, Fallout 3 is the game for you. Can you beat Fallout 3 with only a rocket launcher? The rocket launcher is something truly special. It's the first big gun I've ever used in Fallout 3. That's a true fact, don't bother looking it up. I'll know if you do, and I'll remember. When you finally die, I won't let the real game begin. I'll force you to do the tutorial forever. Because it's a rather large weaponry, it's an endurance-based weapon, not strength like you'd expect. It's heavy and you need endurance to hold it up for a long time. If you can take a great deal of pain, you're basically a weightlifter, which makes me the world's strongest toddler. Special points go into endurance for big guns, intelligence for skill points upon leveling up, luck for all skills, and the rest don't matter much. I'll tell you right now that this is a very, okay, well let's see what happens if I do this playthrough. Lots of shenanigans and nonsense. Just as if, for instance, I spawned in a dozen clones of my dead mother and watched in horror as they did whatever it is a woman who died in childbirth does when they're brought back to life. I even turned one of them into a man. Dad didn't seem to react at all. One by one, they began to migrate somewhere. Dad talked. For some reason, the sideways balloon enamored me. I tried my hardest to get Beatrice down into the birthday bug dungeon for a special surprise. I wanted the roach to eat her. It didn't work out. I killed her. Medicine bartered big guns as skills, and escaped. After being forcefully kicked out into the world by an unforgiving home that didn't want me anymore, my first and only objective was to obtain the rocket launcher schematics. That's right, Bob the Builder's still dead, but we can carry on his legacy by murdering people with ordinary household objects. That's actually number 1431 in the book Extraordinary Uses for Ordinary Things, 2,317 Ways to Save Money and Time, that I got from the book fair as a kid. F***ing air freshener. F***ing shut up, I should just turn that off. Like most weapons in the real world, it only takes 4 components to build, 5 if you include your brain containing the knowledge of how to put them together. A vacuum cleaner, a leaf blower, a fire hose nozzle, and a conductor. Like the dart gun, these things are all relatively common. The schematics are also quite easy to obtain. They can be bought from Moira or Crazy Wolfgang, found in Rivet City, or stolen from your deadbeat father's framed quote in his office. Did I say they're easy to get? That was an exaggeration, like saying my eyes are close together. You can buy them all from Moira. The trick is to get 1080 caps needed to buy it. I should point out that I installed a few more mods for this playthrough. One adds a bunch of new locations to make the world feel more alive, and the other adds more monsters so that world is more deadly than ever. With no way to attack anything yet, my goal was to desecrate corpses to sell their innards for easy money, to kill 2 birds with 1 imaginary stone. I went out to the minefield. Moira wants a mine. Mines reward XP when collected, and can be sold for a pretty nickel. Not as pretty as Philip or the nickel I swallowed and shit out when I was 4. It almost killed me, but they're still solid nickels. Still not at the goal. I robbed a grocery store of its grenades and whatnot. They're common in grocery stores starting right now. If you want to have a fun time, next time you get groceries, or when you get them when you're older since most of you watching this are teenagers, ask the cashier if they have a grenade. If they say no, say nothing for a second, make a big smile, put your hand on theirs, and quietly ask, "Would you like one?" Another thing to point out, we're into recording 2 now, and I don't usually do this, but by the end of this recording I was hammered, to the point where I don't remember what I did in the game. But we'll get there. After the market, I had to finish chapter 1 of the survival guide to make more money. I hurt myself emotionally for money in real life, why shouldn't I do it in a game too? But it was still not enough, so I went through the main quest without attacking anything until I had the necessary caps. We've been here before, let's breeze through it. Metro station with the ghouls. Pussy Squad involved themselves in my business. I leveled up at GNR. The Margaret Thatcher of Super Mutants showed up. Her death was a beautiful sight to behold. I met Mr. Dog. The radiation clung to me pretty hard, and I'm proud to say I figured it out myself. Somehow I got lost and forgot what I was doing. Figured it out eventually. Bought the components, bought the blueprints, built my toy, got it fixed, and began my adventure. Not the main quest. The rocket launcher is effectively a junk jet. Most junk items can be fired from it. They all do the same damage but can be picked up after being fired. So as long as you don't litter like human scum, ammo is infinite. This is the perfect playthrough to take in a few side missions and attempt to enjoy Fallout 3 for the first time in my life. And nothing says pleasure like killing Grandma Sparkle and taking her shit. The mine strip on the bridge was a real struggle. The mines at my feet kept breaking my skull. I watched Brian Wilkes run for his life for a little while using the third-person free cam console command. I wanted to know where he'd go or what creature would eat him. Little bitch got away. Now the rocket launcher is a pretty great weapon. In fact, of all the big guns in the game, it does the most damage per shot if you exclude area of effect damage from weapons like the missile launcher or Fat Man. As a comparison, the rocket launcher does 50 damage per shot, which is the same as Lincoln's repeater. Really, the only drawback is that because you're firing trash, you've got to take projectile arc into consideration. Also, there's the fact that your ammo has weight. You could get creative and use pre-war money since it weighs nothing. A rogue synth is on the loose, and I want him to have the most human experience possible. I want to return him to a life of torment against his will. He's in Rivet City. Makes sense. He's a machine. He needs to be with his people. Of course, the Jefferson Memorial is on the way. Why not stop in for a quick localized genocide? The centaur in the rotunda made me laugh. His hands were up. I knew he really didn't want to hurt me. That's why I killed him. I took someone's head off with a magic 8-ball. If any of you are looking to die anytime soon, hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to test that in real life. The birds are kind of a pushover. They take 6 to 8 shots to kill, but when the rocket launcher can fire up to 3.3 shots per second, that's really not anything worth sending a carrier pigeon home over. Back outside, my hunt for the replicated man raged on. I sold garbage like guns and ammo to some fool who was willing to pay for them. Got a hint about my guy. Mei Wong put her hands up just like the centaur, and this nosy bitch stuck her face in my business when I engaged her in conversation. She likes trains and wants me to help the android. To that end, I gave the component she gave me to Zipper, leveled up again, turned my body into an estate sale by selling my stuff over and over again to the common folk in the market, and went to find Smith Casey's garage. On the way there, I took a quick break to see how high my fired items would go. Lost track of it immediately. Went on a trip to see what lies at the boundaries of the universe, and nearly got torn apart by a gang of rainbow ghouls, courtesy of one of the mods I installed. I like this mod a lot. When you kill the night ghouls, you can take out their eyeballs and it makes their head explode. About halfway to the garage, I set my sights on a detour. There is a man who threw out all my Fallout 3 challenges I haven't met yet. I did go ahead and throw random items at the rats because I can, and because there are many an item inside that can be used as an executionatory device to end someone else's adventure. That's a word I made up. Back to the minefield I went, to finally wipe Arkansas off the map and continue onwards towards my special man. I found the remains of a book fair inside an abandoned house, oopsie-daisied my way into an early grave, freed a slave in the basement after taunting her for a bit, and made one of the greatest discoveries in human history. There exists a sexy slave collar. Part of me is surprised that wasn't added into Fallout the Frontier. You might think it'd be too on the nose to give a sexy slave collar to a soldier captured by the Legion and turned into a slave, but if you've played the mod, you know there's no such thing as too on the nose. They broke the nose. I should point out that, after looking it up, that slave collar most likely comes from the DC Interiors mod. I didn't know it was a thing when I installed the mods I was installing, all of which you can see here. I only took it because the idea of me wearing it was funny, not the idea of slavery itself. I probably don't need that disclaimer, but after all the surrounding the Frontier, I'm saying it anyway. I went and got myself sidetracked again. Closer to my man, I was given the old yellow treatment by a pack of wild hogs. Somewhere along the way I killed someone with something that was ironic. Might have been a pack of cancer sticks, maybe an empty whiskey bottle. I can't remember what it was or find the clip, but I'll put it in here now in the video, now that I've explained it without turning it into a joke. At long last, I arrived at Oasis. Spoke to Tree Father Birch. Just realized right now as I'm writing this that his name is a tree pun. I drank the sacred sap, was greeted by the Greybeards, and met the big man himself, Harold. He has been rooted into the ground for decades, and all he wants is what we all want. He wants to die. Unfortunately for him, suicide is not an option. Usually when someone tells me they can't kill themselves, I tell them to believe in themselves and put their back into it. But Bob went and with his insides, and he doesn't really have a back anymore. His options are limited. The tree people only hear what they want to hear. They see his cries for death as a sign from God that he must be protected and worshipped. As we all learned in science class, trees are sexless. But more importantly, they're naturally resistant to bullets. But his heart lies beneath the surface of the earth, and destroying that will free him. Naturally, I killed his entire flock to see what his reaction would be. It was about what I expected. Then I went and bought a flamer because I wanted to have myself a little bonfire. He screamed for longer than I thought, and burned well into the next morning. I really wanted to see his charred corpse, but I'm not patient enough for that. So I reloaded a save, got 2 items from the tree people, one to halt his spread, the other to speed it up, and entered the caves, unsure of what my next move would be. The Mirelurks and Mirelurk Kings were without a doubt the toughest enemies in the game so far. Finally, at his heart, I pondered my choices. On one hand, I want him to suffer as much as possible, but on the other, I really do enjoy killing things. In the end, I went with the option to spread him all over the wasteland. The farther he grows, the longer he'll survive. Sadly, he came around to the idea, embraced his new life. The townspeople remembered today is my birthday after I lied to them about today being my birthday so I could get presents, and I went on my way. Not back to rescuing my father. If he's lasted this long, what's another couple days? I've killed innocent creatures. I've loitered. I've said some things that are very unbecoming of a good Christian boy like me. But I have yet to pull off the perfect heist. I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence, just like Ghost Rider did. Abraham Washington tipped me off about its location, and I returned to GNR Radio to begin my journey. Since I've last been there, I've leveled up a few times, which awoke a whole new breed of super mutants. They're like rabbits, and when you add inbreeding into the mix, things get out of hand very quickly. The first set of tunnels was uneventful. The Battle of the Water Fountain was the opposite. I strategically activated several mines to distract the raiders with my blown off limbs so I could blast them with ordinary household objects. Before long, I arrived at the mall, where I killed the Brotherhood Initiate. It was his own fault, shouldn't have been out there by himself when he knew I was on my way. I had a feeling someone would expect foul play when his head was gone, so I placed his body on a shopping cart and put another nearby to make it look like gang violence, and entered the National Archive for probably the first time in 11 years. I don't think I've been in this building since one of my first playthroughs of this game, long before Mitten Squad was a thing, and I began my search. I really didn't think I'd see a piranha plant inside. I thought they went extinct with morality several centuries ago. After checking every room I entered for a giant sign pointing me towards the document, I made my way to the entrance, helped Sydney fend off a few waves of mutants, used her secret entrance to get into a hole, and from within the basement, continued my quest for paper goods. Because I lacked the know-how required to open a door, I took to the basement to find another route to success. The robots infesting the lower levels were incredibly unprepared for me. They never expected someone to use tin cans, used soda bottles, and destroyed books as a weapon. I killed Prim Slim's cousin on instinct alone, went back in time, put on my sexiest outfit and slave collar, and engaged him in the art of conversation. Mr. Buttons still believes he's living in a long-since forgotten fantasy land that was 2004, which was honestly my greatest year. Me and my brother made a home movie about a killer gingerbread dog toy named Happy. One day I'm gonna find it and I'll share it with the world. Buttons and I planned a double cross. I'm gonna make love to a squid to obtain its ink to allow Buttons to make a perfect forgery of the document. Squidward lies in the dark underbelly of the Arlington Library. On the way there, I got into a large-scale conflict with Tail and Company. It was a real mess after I got done blowing their limbs off. Scribe Yearling dared to ask me to hand over my pre-war books, as if I'd actually give her my most valuable ammunition. She and her people died for that. I like to think Arthur the Aardvark was looking This is so dumb. I like to think Arthur the Aardvark was looking down on me from heaven with pride as I killed them all inside the library, because he was right the entire time. Having fun isn't hard if you have a library card. Once I got the ink sac, I returned to Buttons. He made me a forgery. I used his terminal to unseal all the locks, took the real Declaration of Independence for myself, and traveled to Rivet City to claim my prize. My hubris and desire to commit petty crimes came back and bit me in the fanny. Abraham took both the forgery and the real document. I'd have killed him, but violence is not the answer today. You see, I woke up Thomas Jefferson in the basement before I left the National Archive, and his prime directive is to protect democracy. Abraham Washington will taste the cold metal arm of justice one day. From there, it was back to the business of finding my father. But here's the thing about this playthrough. You already know how the main questline's gonna go down. I have a weapon that does damage. Of course it's possible to finish the game with it. There are only so many ways I can explain the same things over and over again. Which is why, instead, I'm gonna focus on all the weird I did to entertain myself while I played Fallout 3 and listened to a podcast about aliens abducting and people. In the future of VR that Zuckerberg wants for us all, I summoned the Chinese and tried to turn children into communists by force. When that didn't work, I turned Braun's Eternal Nightmare into a memorial for Achievement City by recreating the Field of Giants as best I could. In Rivet City, I started changing every person I saw on the molecular level. Madison Lee became a man, Dad became a giant woman, Garza became a monster, Mrs. Father Sack sacrificed himself to kill Colonel Pumpkin Spice, and we escaped into the tunnels. Knowing that in a few minutes Lee would be nagging about wanting to save Garza from a panic attack, I took precautionary measures by killing him and the other scientist. Then I found out something I never knew. There are many armors in this game that have versions for both men and women, but some, like Elder Lion's armor, is unique and has no version for the other side. So if you turn Lions into a woman, he wears a Vault 101 jumpsuit instead. I'm not sure about the missing hand though. I can't think of any reason why it would be gone. I could somewhat understand a gap in the wrist because of there being no Pip-Boy, but not the hand. The only explanation I can come up with is that Lions normally wears gloves, and the jumpsuit has no gloves, so there is no texture for his hand. But if that's the case, why isn't he missing both? Maybe these are questions we're not meant to ask, like why these two knights are different heights. I swear on my own grave that I had nothing to do with it. Down in Lamplight, I glitched myself inside, remembered that I wouldn't be able to draw a weapon, so I went to free the children. It took all the ammo I had to extinguish the slavers. Old Man Willoughby refused to abandon his post. I set him free, got into Murder Pass, and tried to kill Fox. I should have known you can't kill God. After 130 shots being fired with big guns at 100 and a dose of Psycho, his health barely budged. Near the GECK, I had me an experiment. You can activate the GECK and blow yourself to Kingdom Come Deliverance. If you enable God mode, your character survives but is in a coma. However, something I never even considered using was the resurrect command on myself. Deep down, I always knew it would work. Think about it. How else could Jesus have woken up after he got turned into a pinboard? I wanted to see two things. First, if I activate the GECK and still had control, would Fox be able to give me the GECK? And second, if he didn't give me the GECK but I still activated it, what else in the game could still happen? For the first thing, Fox can still get you the GECK, but the game is obviously broken. My weapon's f***ed up, and I don't exist in third person anymore. I sped up time to get Fox to the chamber in under 12 hours. I also hoped that I'd be able to take his torn up vault suit as armor for myself, but it's not an option. It's most likely his texture. What's weird is that he can still get you the GECK, but he doesn't go into the infirmary to get it. After leaving the vault, I increased my speed by about 1200% to get back to the Citadel quickly. I was Icarus, and Todd Howard melted my wings when I flew too close to the sun. The game crashed. Back again, I chose to be a Nerf dart rather than a normal bullet when flying through the sky, and returned to the Citadel. Unsurprisingly, nothing happened. Went back to the lab in an old save, snagged the GECK, got captured by the Enclave, and the game crashed. Tried it again, and it crashed again. I made an executive decision here. You already know the rest of the game is possible. Wake up in the base, kill the Enclave, return to the Citadel, follow Liberty Prime, activate the Purifier. There's no reason why it can't be done at this stage, and that's why I didn't even bother with the rest of the game. I quit there, and did not beat Fallout 3 with only a rocket launcher. And if you're wondering, quitting challenges is not something I'm planning on doing on a more frequent basis. I only did it here because it was Thursday evening when I wrapped up the playthrough. Normally I'm done by Tuesday, but I spent Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday trying to beat Halo Combat Evolved without taking damage, and I got stuck on the second to last level and decided to do this instead, since I knew it was possible. Halo Combat Evolved will be next week's video. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server by going to mitten.land. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.